Hello, and thank you. Hello, everyone. Thank you for joining us today for what I think will be a very insightful meeting into a topic which I'm sure is highly relevant in each of your business. As stated before, I am Brian Hamilton from Alphabet, and I'll be your host today. To start things out, I'd like to make a quick introduction of Alphabet, as well as our guest expert today, Hannes Roskoff, followed by a short lead-in to the subject matter. For your own edification, I just wanted to briefly show a slide so you can see the names and spellings of the presenters today. To begin with, let's start with the company overview. Alphabet's core competency is in helping companies plan their IT strategy and investments while maintaining alignment with the business strategy. Companies look to us to achieve an understanding of where they are spending their money within IT, how those investments support the business, what changes will have the greatest impact for the business, as well as what is the impact of those changes, with a focus on the cost implications. Our solution, Planning IT, is used by global companies, such as Credit Suisse, to better support their businesses. The challenge we want to discuss today is how to create a business-focused view on the underlying technology and its investments that are leveraged to support specific business areas, domains, and/or processes. The next challenge is to understand what the business priorities are. Once this information is gathered, the client is able to begin the process of identifying areas for capital expense prioritization and operational expense reduction, while maintaining and/or improving the level of IT support for the business. While Alphabet provides many value contributions, two that will stand out in today's discussions are consolidation of initiatives, such as application portfolio optimization, platform standardization, and so on. What we offer in these areas are things such as consolidation analytics, support for project planning, and process and controlling of project execution. What this provides as a benefit is the faster analysis of the IT environment before consolidation, as well as fewer planning errors and increased planning maturity within the area. The other value contribution that will be apparent today is that we want these initiatives to be business-driven. And this is done through transformation programs and innovation programs, as well as support for the mergers and acquisitions, which are often a part of this and often a problem with this. Support for the gathering of information through a collaborative environment, and as well as analysis. Doing transformation planning, as well as assessing the scope of change that the organization would like to take. Again, this provides faster analysis of the IT environment and less planning areas, and better delivery on the customer expectations. I'm very pleased to have with us today Hannes Roskoff from Credit Suisse, whose company embarked on a determined effort to structure their business and IT domains to gain transparency into how they relate to each other and thus optimize the IT investment and cost in the targeted manner, one that would optimally support the business and not impose any undue risk. Hannes has extensive international experience in streamlining, reorganizing, and restructuring IT organizations, their processes and products. His expertise in project, people, and business management stems from his work in Switzerland, Los Angeles, and New York, including roles such as CIO, senior manager, to software engineer, to name a few. He spent a combined 5 years with Credit Suisse in Zurich and New York, where he's currently the global IT architecture, head of processes and tools. There he has just completed a merging of 3 legacy applications and technology inventories and their processes into one harmonized system, as I'm sure he will allude to. He has an MBA focused on computer science and economics from the University of Zurich. So now, without further ado, I will hand it over to you, Hannes.
Thank you. Welcome to everybody. Today I would like to show you a little overview and a background about Credit Suisse and our IT landscape, and our approach to keep costs under control and plan for change at the same time. Well, first of all, who is Credit Suisse? I mean, most of the people perhaps know, but some details. We almost have 50,000 people. We're a global company. We have global presence, but we have 3 main businesses: private bank, investment bank, and asset management. As you can imagine, they have all a little bit of different specifics how to do business, but at the same time they have commonalities from an IT perspective, and that's what we try to find out to keep our costs in line. When we talk about the IT landscape, I'd present you here first what we see in Credit Suisse in Switzerland in private bank. We do about 250 million payments every year. We have over 30,000 systems just in Switzerland. We have 11 hosts. We have over 150 projects which run in parallel to keep that system up and floating. And now you explode that to the global perspective. We have about 5,000 applications, over 100 million lines of code we have to manage. We have quite a lot of changes through new business requirements, but also through regulations and law changes. And we also run 24/7 by 365. And everything should respect security, should be reliable, should be available all the time. Well, the big question is, how can an IT manager, or in our case a CIO, manage this complexity, but still keep it efficient and keep the cost down? What we did, we used domain models to split and partition the work we the environment we have into smaller pieces. That means they're better manageable and they're cohesive. We also tried to reduce redundancy within these domains or subdomains. That means we have data and services grouped together, and we try not to have redundancy across domains, and also have shown that within a domain this is where we are better coupled together, this working together stronger than across domain boundaries. We also use it afterwards beside the IT domain model, we use it also in the enterprise service architecture, so that's some base work we did for that as well. The benefits we get out of that domain models is that we have a common language. As I said, we have 3 divisions, but we have historically also 2 big companies in one. Credit Suisse was before, it was Credit Suisse Group in Switzerland, Europe, but then on top, when we bought Credit Suisse First Boston from the US in the UK, we have different languages, we have different ways to communicate with each other. The common domain model is one of the first models or language models or reference model that we use, and we really start to understand across borders. Based on my language or my dialect, you may know I'm a Swiss, and that's something in New York you realize very often that we speak both, everybody speaks English, but we may not mean the same thing. So the domain model also helps us in that to communicate with each other. On top of that communication, we also have a full inventory, the first time since last year, that the bank has one inventory from a conceptual point of view about all the technology that we use, from a business application, technical application, to infrastructure pieces. We have basic description, we have certain attributes we use, and we also show dependencies to each other. We use that also for lifecycle management on applications and infrastructure. We have certain goals within the company on how long we want to use applications, how long we might benefit of an application. So that also helps us to identify dependency on each other's lifecycle, and also show risk that may arise if we go beyond an end of life, for example, from a vendor product. We also use that central database for compliancy, like SOX compliancy. We use it for internal audit and other external legal requirements that we have to report. Because as I said, it's the only one that really has all the systems in one place. But more importantly, for an architecture, is also looking forward. Looking forward is, it's just the last line, but it's for us making decision and how do we evolve our IT landscape. Our IT landscape, we assume every 10 years we replace the landscape completely. So how do you manage that? How do you control that, that it happens in an orderly way? And the money that we have, even if you're a bank, we don't have endless funding. How do you apply the money to the project that people request? Private bank, remember, has 150 alone. Overall, we probably run 300, 400 projects in parallel, just in IT. But what you also see in the future of a domain model, that we can map the applications, how they're used, by user groups, by business units, by locations, regional, by divisions. So we can see we have overlaps perhaps in functionality provided by more than one application. We may have actually holes. We may not have the functionality that we need in certain places, and we have to solve it. Or we may be able to provide it by an existing application instead of buying a new one. So that for us is that cost avoidance. We have also a chance with that domain model to find redundancy. Redundancy means for us not only we have two desktops two systems on a desk for a person, but also redundancy on functionality, redundancy on similar infrastructure. That means we can identify by linking business applications to the infrastructure that which applications use a similar infrastructure, and we create runtime platforms with that. Runtime platforms are managed a little bit different, but are more standardized, cost us at the end less per piece than if you would do it 10 times individually. So that's for us, that's really cost savings, where we can see we can save money and can apply this money for other things we need to do, because we have constantly new business requirements. Business wants to do the deals differently, wants to accommodate the customer in a different way than we did in the past. We also plan and simulate what changes mean. If a business has requirements, if the business wants to change something, what does it mean? If a vendor product change, what can we do with that? Last but not least, business architecture. I mean, the business has a certain way how it runs. The domain model helps us to facilitate the conversation with the business, to find out what do they want in the future, because business, it's very hard, as probably everybody knows, it's very hard for the business to tell them what they need from an IT perspective. Very often it's the IT guys telling what the business has and the need is. But this is a way to communicate with each other and facilitate conversations. What is a success factor, or what made it a success in our implementation that the domain model works that's based on Planning IT's implementation? Integration adds the value to the whole domain model, makes it running, makes it efficient, makes it working. In the middle you see the technical product, the ICT object based in Planning IT. Then we have the domain models where we can use that to make analysis for functionality, redundancy. We can assess the IT architecture point of view. We have regular reviews of the domains, what's going on, what's happening on the market, where do we see where the market is going, what should we assume, what's happening in the next years, where do we need to spend money, or changes that may happen through just market results. People or companies are merging, acquiring each other. That has influence on our way we do business within IT as well. So this is done on domain level, and people, the domain architects, we name them, they're responsible for coming up with that and producing that information to our senior management and executive board. In IT operations, whatever we have in Planning IT is the golden source for a lot of data. Service desk uses that information. If you don't have the system in Planning IT, you will not be able to have a help desk call against the product. So that ensures that really a lot of products came into the Planning IT. Because otherwise, why do you need to have it just for the architects? No, we really want to make them using it for other information as well. System deployment. That is, if somebody wants to deploy on an infrastructure, you need to update your Planning IT data so you can actually deploy it on the service you want to have. And we start to also now control whatever they entered, is that really the way it is in reality. So we start to combine this data and this information together and control if the domain architects, the IT owners did good work, and the people who run the systems are they in sync. It's also very often used for stability and availability, or if we have disaster recovery, that we go into Planning IT and see what are the dependencies on applications. If this server is down, what does it mean on all the applications running on it? Or does it break the business process? Can we not deliver data to customers, for example? Very important, because sometimes we have we're talking about seconds and milliseconds. For internal information, it's also important cost allocation. How do we allocate cost? It goes so far that we have information flows into the general ledger. How do we assign costs that we accrued and activate to our general ledger? Planning IT helps the financial organization to operate in this area and make decisions. With internal policies, one of them, data ownership. No data can be without owner. Planning IT helps to facilitate that because we know who owns an application. It means most likely also whoever owns the application owns the data or the business side of it. So it's a starting point for us to also enforce that piece, which is important for us to make decisions. IT risk assessments, that's also internal, that we can assess what is the risk about an application in the business process from a business perspective, but also is there data that is used in certain legal environments that should not be used in other environments, or data that people can access today, but if they change job, they should not access anymore in the future. That is actually also derived out of domain model information. Last but not least, external regulation. SOX compliance is the one that everybody knows globally. We track that within planning IT. The owners of the applications have to confirm that we are SOX compliant, and then the people who are dealing with the SOX compliance for the US government, they report based on that information. That helps us again to ensure that data is accurate, it can be used in a good way, and we get the quality that we need on a global perspective, and not just for one country or for one region because we have the great domain architect. It is really enforcing the need and the use of data and reuse of data. The whole integration at the end also allowed consolidation. It allowed us to migrate at least 3 big portfolio management systems that we had in place. We know that we had a lot of others around, that means be sometimes even just spreadsheets, but we got rid of them, and we have at the moment over 25 operational systems integrated directly into planning IT. Only a few deliver data, most of them pull data out of it, and we have probably another 50 afterwards using that data to report to different areas in the company and use that information to make decisions. And if you look at the planning IT implementation and merging 3 into 1, we actually reached within the first 12 months already our break-even, that we run now cheaper, less expensive, not cheaper would be the wrong word, but less expensive than a year ago when we had 3 systems to maintain. We were not really able to maintain data to each other, and so on and so on. Another area where it also allows for consolidation is this information is we can review projects based on the domains. So instead of just an organization comes to us and asks for money, we actually look which domain are these applications covering, how important are these domains for the business, and how much money do they want. And then we start to realize, first time last year, well, there's some organization out of location A and another organization out of location B. They both want to update a similar functionality and want to spend a lot of money on it. Why that? So we brought them together. They have to figure out which one will survive long term and come up with a better solution and start saving money for the company. That also brings then the functional duplicates that we can eliminate. In such a case, if we decide, well, we only need 1 application instead of 2, or we only need once the same functionality, but we reuse it in multiple places, we can start to reduce the duplicates. That means we can reduce our operational cost and spending by investing one time, but saving afterwards many years. But also we can reduce the variety how something can happen. If you look at today, banking process in Switzerland and outside of Switzerland probably works different. I would guess in 3-4 years they work pretty similar because we start to apply similar systems or the same system across the board, doing the same thing for us in the same way, reducing our operational cost and again our future spending, because we don't need to upgrade multiple systems. And then last but not least, merging of such application, which is in the past was always a big hassle, and it still is. If you need to merge systems, big ERP systems, for example, or trading systems, everybody has reasons why they should keep it. well, also these systems reach their life cycle, end of life at some point. And that is the point where we re-evaluate and say, oh, well, which one will survive in 2, 3, 4, 5 years? As I said, our horizon is in 10 years, each system is replaced at least once. So if you take in 4 years, we have to replace system A, in 7 years, system B, well, which one should we keep long term if both do the same thing? And so the cost we accrued at that point is not much more, is a little bit more, but it's not as much as it was in the past when you had big, huge migration projects without having an external reason to do it. What do we want to accomplish with all the domain models that we have and the work that we have around? We want to, first of all, we want to manage our landscape effectively. That means use the money that we get and the money that we make on the business side in the best way we can do. We rather look at the big picture than at the small project by project. That was what's in the past, and we're moving up to the bigger picture. We also prefer to have an impact analysis done before we actually implement something. That's one of the tricky things that we're still working on, that to get people used to where actually are you using all your functionality in an application. What impact would you have with a new version, a new application? That means the vendors or the providers of applications also need to provide this information. It's a learning curve. We eliminate duplicates as a regular lifecycle maintenance work. We emphasize a lot of technical standards, reducing individual work, especially on the infrastructure piece. And we rather drive business innovation on standard platform instead of spending a lot of money on our IT infrastructure, because all of them have to be so special requirements that at the end, if you look globally over it, we can combine them together and provide also a better service. To the questions summary, I would like to take the questions at the end when the presentations and the complete webinar is done and answer them. I'm happy to answer them at this point. That's back.
Thank you, Hannes. And I think that you've actually very well demonstrated how necessary it is to overlay, a business-relevant structure onto the IT. The company has to be able to understand where it is possible to reduce costs and where also it is wise to place investment funds for the future. To everyone, as you've just heard from Credit Suisse, uses Planning IT to integrate the different aspects of IT into one transparent, enterprise-wide, and business-related view. The activities necessary to achieve that view are part of our Planning IT solution, which many companies use with significant results. This is the expertise that Alphabet brings to the table and brings to the market in understanding obviously the current budgetary situation in many organizations today. We're now offering the packages ControlITSave, targeted for IT financial managers and IT staff tasked with making recommendations for, cost reductions and or, what projects of the many, often too many, that are proposed to invest in the future. The offering is based on best practices with our products, such as those from Credit Suisse, as you've just heard. And in the following brief presentation, I'd just like to explain a little bit about the service offering and potential deliverables and benefits that can be achieved. So within the ControlITSave, there are actually two financial management packages, the CapEx prioritization or project prioritization and the operational expense reduction. Obviously, within the capital expense prioritization, we're looking at where's the investment justification, what IT projects does our priority, which projects can possibly be discarded. Within your operational expense side, we're looking at what are we currently spending our money on, what is our current technology base, where can we perhaps reduce service level agreement costs, and in particular, how can we control, oftentimes the mass amount of licenses that are out there. I'm going to start with the operational side of things, which is oftentimes where people start. And what do we do within this area? We want to and we can often, emphasize that we can deliver something within about 2 months, but we want to define our cost drivers. We want to identify, again, those service level agreement savings, and we want to reduce the license portfolio, obviously. Now, how do we do that? What are we spending our money for, and what are we spending our money on? We want to capture the IT system costs, and this starts with, obviously what Hannes was discussing, understanding what your IT landscape is, capturing the current systems and products and so on that are supporting those applications that are out there. That includes the licenses and the hardware costs, obviously with investment and amortization. And then obviously the operational and maintenance costs of those systems. Then we want to understand what is the business side of things. We need to always understand that there's a business reason for having these IT systems in place. And so we want to capture those domains into the portfolio and build out that domain model so then we can start understanding where are the costs and how are they being applied to those domains. And begin to categorize, okay, well, actually, these areas of the business are more important than these areas of the business in this current environment. And how much money am I spending in those areas? And is that money really justified? Obviously, some of the deliverables are you define your cost drivers, something that many people do in many different places, but now we're wanting you to do them in a very succinct way. And then also identify what is the cost of the IT for a particular business area and across business areas. This provides transparency transparency into what you're spending on, as well as transparency from the business perspective to what you're spending on. Next, where can we reduce our service level agreement costs? We want to, again, evaluate the business domain service level requirements. So from a business perspective, what do we expect from the services that are being provided by our IT systems and so forth? Capture the service level per IT system, meaning we're ranking these and how well are they actually performing. And then ultimately mapping, we have to do this, we have to map our IT systems back to our domains and understand, okay, for this particular domain, this is what we're saying we required, this is how well it's being delivered. IT systems with inappropriate service levels can be identified, and then we can also identify down to what applications or systems can we start saying, we need to start looking at shutting those guys down. And this gives us a qualified reduction for potential costs of SLAs. Finally, how can we get license transparency? This is oftentimes a very big pain point within large organizations, especially those that go through a lot of mergers and acquisitions and things of that nature, is just understanding what licensing do we have in our current organization, who is managing those licenses. Is it managed internally or centrally, or is it managed decentrally? And if it's managed decentrally, who's actually managing it? And then ultimately it really boils down to just capturing how many licenses exist for all of the products that we currently support and all the systems that are currently utilizing those products. And let's see where we can start seeing what's available out there, because oftentimes, organizations are paying for licenses that aren't being utilized, and oftentimes they're paying for licenses that just don't have any more relevance. And then we can start, with that transparency, we can start going back to vendors and so on and so forth to start, negotiating different contracts so we can consolidate and so forth. Again, we're looking at a reduction potential within the license portfolio, which can be an immediate impact on your operational expense. As I mentioned before, we see that we can achieve results within a 2-month time frame. That depends on maturity and customer participation, obviously. But this is just an example of what a project might look like over these 2 months. I'm not going to go through each of these steps because we've just kind of talked about them, but it starts from, capturing your IT system costs all the way down to capturing your licensing information synthesizing this information. Obviously, you have to map this information together in order to, get some of those benefits that we discussed before, in order to create a reasonable and defendable, presentation of management of saying, here's where we think we can really reduce some operational expenses over the years to come. Our next offering that we'll discuss here is the project CapEx prioritization, and this is one that's I'm sure near and dear to many people's hearts, where you show where is your investment justified, and what are my most important projects, and once you've defined here's my important projects, what are projects are justified. You ultimately want to maybe be able to, cancel some of those too many projects that are out there. Again, we're seeing results within organizations within about 2 months. How do we do this? Step one, where is it justified? This is very business-driven, so the first step in this or approach in this is to define a capability map, or business domains, if you will, of what does your business do, what does your business need to do, and then how well does it do it. And, these indicators, they can be a wide range of indicators, anything from revenue contribution to market excellence, so on and so forth. And we don't want to just rank these capabilities for how we're currently doing it, but we want to rank them how we actually really plan or what we see where we need to go in the future. And what you end up with is a prioritization list of your business capabilities, as well as the ability to do some what-if analysis by taking your indicators and either, increasing or decreasing the weight depending upon, the current market environment. And a result would be, an example would be a heat map for investments. So, it prioritizes based on, the indicators that you defined. Where should I be really focusing my attention for investing? Then we need to understand which projects, either planned or currently in flight, which of those deserve the priority. Now, we obviously understand there's many project tools out there. Most of the organizations already have, project planning tools in place and things of that nature. So we ultimately look to, importing as much information as possible, where we look to do or interfacing with these other applications in order to bring them into this enterprise-wide view. Oftentimes, those PPM tools are very good at executing and understanding, individual projects, but not really understanding the cross-project impacts and the enterprise-wide view of those. Then, ultimately, we want to map which projects are supporting which domains, and this ties back to step one, where we want to understand, what's our most important areas, and where do we need to put our focus, and what projects are actually supporting. This helps to, start giving us a little bit of visibility into what might be able to be stopped. And also, we want to understand what are the project KPIs, and so therefore we can manage from an enterprise, again, level. How well is a project actually executing? Are they, very simply, are they, on time, on budget? Are they utilizing the resources, so on and so forth? What you get is you get an enterprise-wide project portfolio, and you again get the ability to do some what-if analysis. What if I change the priority of some of my business capabilities, or what if I decide that this project can actually be, moved back or moved forward? What would that do? And you get as it states, a defendable, prioritized list of projects. And that's a key word, is defendable, because you can show real analytics and show real traceability down from your business, what the business knows that it needs to do, how well it thinks it's performing, down to the projects and how they're performing, and you can justify the prioritization of those projects. Finally, it comes down to the hard questions: is which projects can be discarded, and this really comes down to understanding. And again, this is having the projects into this enterprise-wide view, is to understand the project dependencies. Oftentimes projects don't exist in a vacuum. Actually, probably very rarely does a project ever exist in a vacuum, although they often operate as they do. And to understand those project dependencies is very key when you want to start looking at, which projects can I cut? How can I start saving on that capital expenditure out to the future? Because I can't just all of a sudden say, well, this guy fell down way low on my prioritization list, he's gone. Because ultimately that project may have a dependency of delivering something, a capability that is vital to a project that is very high on your priority list. So you need to be able to understand those impacts. You need to understand, obviously, the projects and the systems that they're affecting. You start to very quickly when you bring this information in and you understand your projects and the systems and the businesses that they're supporting, the redundancies that are within your project portfolio. You can develop a general list of stop candidates and start doing the impact analysis. Very key to start utilize the analytics and the information to do that impact analysis of what if I stop this guy? What other things are going to be impacted? Again, you get a justifiable and traceable savings potential, meaning I've done my due diligence. I've seen where I can actually do some stops of projects either planned or in flight. And here's a concrete savings potential of here's what we had planned on spend on this current project. Again, just a brief example of what a project like this might run like, where you want to do everything from developing your capabilities, capturing your projects, mapping your projects to your capabilities, to your IT systems, down to your analysis to come up with that management presentation of here's what we think we need to do moving on into the future with our investments. To sum up, just in general, and this is just a quick bullet list of some of the benefits that you get, but you can quickly see which projects deserve the priority and which projects can be discarded. You can find redundancies in your applications and your products that are serving no purpose or multiple purposes. You can identify projects which have little or no relationship to your ultimate top business goals, and you can start to very finely focus your capital investments on the highest priorities for your business as you're moving forward. So now we're going to open it up for Q&A, and as was stated before, obviously people have been entering questions over the chat, and so what we're going to do is have our colleague Anna select the questions for us, and for that, Anna, I will. What do you have for us?
Well, Brian, we have a very lively group on the call today. A lot of questions coming in, so let's get through as many as possible in the time we have left. Let me see. The first question to Hannes. Hannes, what would you recommend for starting a project such as that at Credit Suisse? Specifically, what first steps would you recommend, who to involve, and what expected timeframes can you give?
Well, I would make sure that responsibility, accountability, and also visibility is covered by a senior manager as a stakeholder. It could be either a CFO, a Q, CT, or CIO, because only with such support you really get the data you need to start assessing the systems. You want to make your results visible and show also the management the opportunities in cost savings and avoidance, as well as short as long term. As I said, with domain models you have a communication tool, so use that. Planning IT is, for us, is a great tool to facilitate such conversations, and I think especially today every manager likes to hear about opportunities to save costs. Right?
I think so. That seems to be the order of the day. Next question to you, Hannes. At what point in creating the domain model and applying IT information to it did Credit Suisse feel the need for a tool like Planning IT to bring everything together? What was Credit Suisse using before, also from that same person?
Well, quite a long time. Some years ago, Credit Suisse started to implement two systems. One was used mainly to capture architecture data, and the other one was used for operational data. And about 5 years ago, There's a very in-house development. Nothing existed on the market at this time. About 5 years ago, the domain concept started to be introduced, and the architecture tool migrated to planning IT. And then last year we merged, as I said, multiple systems into planning IT, where we have now a combination between architecture and operation. And this allows us to cover now all applications and infrastructure globally. We have over 8,000 entries at the moment that we track and maintain.
I'm sure that keeps you busy.
Yeah.
Okay, the next question is to Brian. And this is, I'm getting offers from a lot of consulting firms offering a similar service to that which Alphabet is offering. How is yours different?
Yes, there are several consulting and very solely based services firms out there that offer these same things. Our primary differentiation is that you have the expertise in-house in order to understand and analyze these things. We come to the table with a process and a procedure as well as a solution within planning IT in order to execute this. That's why we give kind of these short time frames to see kind of these definable results. Where you see many of the service organizations will come in and there's a long process of analysis, and it's either a development of a custom solution for capturing and analyzing information, or even so far as to build one from the ground up. So we see it as we come in with obviously with the expertise, as I said, a process and a procedure that you saw from the slides before. For where do you start, which is oftentimes the biggest question. What do we do once we get started, and what are some of those results that we can start showing? As Hannes alluded to earlier, it's very important to get that senior management buy-in, and oftentimes when there's not a foreseeable result very very quickly, it's tough to maintain that high level senior manager support. So that's where we see us as differentiators.
Okay, good. Let's stay with you, Brian. Next question. It seems that there are a lot of other tools that capture and analyze costs, such as IT asset management products, or prioritize projects, such as PPM tools. How is your solution different?
Absolutely, and actually we see our solution actually as being complementary. Obviously there's you want to capture your IT assets and the costs there. You want to capture your projects and the costs there. The problem that you run into is that there's no correlation between those things. And so ultimately what we see as the real differentiator there is the ability to bring that information together and understand it from an enterprise-wide perspective. Well, yes, we have IT assets that are costing us this much. That's on the operational side. We've got our projects that are costing us this much. That's from our investment side. But we don't have any visibility as far as from those projects and those assets via the application, the domain concept, and the systems that are being supported. We don't have the visibility to really have traceability of those costs, and to have kind of what we often refer to as kind of a single source of the truth.
Okay, thanks, Brian. Going through the list, Hannes, perhaps you'd like to take this one. Do IT finance managers play an active or more of an inactive role in this IT planning process?
I think they should take more and more an active role, and we also see that, and that's not just at Credit Suisse. I think across the board, combination of architecture, project management, financial discipline, I think is growing. And here, Credit Suisse Conception Switzerland is leading in this area, and we have a combination of that. We have finance people helping us in making decisions together with architecture, or architecture helping the finance people to make decisions about projects and where should we spend money. That concept we're also introducing now globally, and that means that finance people need more non-financial data before approving a budget request. And the architects review are actually seen as somehow independent and very helpful. It's not we're not biased. Minority tax doesn't really care if it's vendor A or B. They want to have the functionality solved. They have the long-term picture in mind, and that helps for the financial people to make a decision on where to spend the money. So absolutely, they should be more active, I think. But I think, on the other hand, there's also a lack of information they have today. So like a tool like Planning IT helps them to get the information they need to be more active.
Okay, thanks, Hannes. Brian, would you have anything to add to that?
Really not much, actually. That was pretty well spot on, and that's something that we see within several of our clients that are they're really starting to understand the power of the financials as it ties into the other areas of your enterprise information, and being able to really do and provide concrete, as we were saying, justifiable results back to those those CFOs and those financial managers that they can start making decisions based on at least defendable and justifiable information, if you will.
Okay.
So other than that, I believe Hannes nailed it spot on.
Okay, very good.
Thank you.
Hannes, I have one more question just for you. Which were the domain models considered in Credit Suisse's project?
Well, we looked at several from other banks, some bigger companies in Germany, I think the Post, and some of them are very, very detailed. For one requirement we had was to try to have it independent of the organization, and we have at the end 22 subdomains that we deal with. So we try to keep it also as lean as possible. I can put the list together if someone is really interested in all of them which we looked at. I don't have all names of the companies we looked at on top of my head.
Okay, maybe we can pass that information on to the person who asked the question offline.
Yep.
Okay, I think we're running out of time, so any of the remaining questions we didn't get to, we will also address offline, and thank you for your inquisitiveness. I'll hand you back to Brian now.
All right, thank you very much, Anna. And I would like to thank everybody online for taking time out of their day and participating in this and listening. I'd also like to thank very much Hannes for definitely taking time out of his schedule and day to prepare this presentation and join us. If you would like to get any further information on what you've seen or heard today, we ask that you contact your sales representative. If you are unsure who your sales representative is, then you can contact either Guy Schroen in the U.S. or Paula Zier in our EU headquarters, and they can point you in the right direction. Also, as you heard before, the webinar was recorded, and we will be posting it on our website in the next few days, depending on how long it takes us to get that up there. And so that you can either review it again, download it, share with anybody that was maybe not able to attend, or that you think it might be beneficial to see and hear. So with that, I will again thank everybody, and have a nice afternoon or evening wherever you are.